see
Yeah,
what's happening.
it's,
Not sure,
go ahead, you can.
not sure the date of our meeting, but at our meeting, we talked about a letter I was going to bring to him the next day, which I did, and he was going to answer it, which I haven't heard anything, and so once I didn't hear anything, I expected to get the answer here.
Okay, I think what you probably want to do is, when you have the opportunity to respond, I would put all that into evidence after we get going, if that's okay. I mean, otherwise we're kind of getting.
The magistrate just said that he tried to get him there. I think
Oh,
he's caused a lot of these problems. He should be here.
Well, let me say this, I mean, I don't control his schedule, you know.
I think he's very convenient that he's not here.
So I don't
It's
know.
obvious to us anyway.
I believe he's at an EOC meeting.
He said a mandatory ELC meeting at the time.
Well, Jerry was supposed to be at a mandatory softball game today.
Well, still go ahead and put it in a testimony, because then based upon that testimony and what you believe to be, you know, what you to believe or perceive to have been, you know, what you were looking for, at least it's in testimony, and the magistrate can then rule or render a decision based upon whether or not he believes Mr. Cutney's response is going to be applicable to this decision today.
Point is, he said he responded, he didn't.
Okay,
Well,
then-
let's get this all on the record.
Yeah, let's put it in the
Because
record.
otherwise, it's just us talking,
Right.
you know.
All right.
Are we on? We are on the record. Okay. Let me call to order the Town of Waxahachie Grove Special Magistrate hearing for today. It's Wednesday, May 15, 2013. It's 10 a.m. And my name is Bill Downey as the magistrate. Let me begin by swearing in whoever is going to testify. Suppose you folks will, and over here. Do you swear the testimony you'll give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And it looks like we just have one case
Yes, sir.
today, and this is listed under the fine lien certification, case 2012-311, Waxahachie Groves versus 1930 D Road LLC, and we have Mr. and Mrs. Hastings present on that case. Let me sort of get myself up to date, and then we can move forward. Was an order entered? When did we enter the order? March 12th, I guess it was.
Yes, sir.
And found a violation and gave until April 20 for compliance.
Yes, sir.
And I guess we're here on the issue about whether or not there was compliance, and I guess if not, whether a fine should be levied. So am I in the right spot there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Why don't we proceed then from the town's side and see what's happened?
Thank you, Mr. Magistrate. I'm Beverly Tu, representing the town of Waxahachie Groves Code Enforcement. Mr. Magistrate, you're absolutely correct. The case was heard on March 6, 2013. It is Town of Waxahachie Groves Florida Petitioner versus 1930 D Road LLC, patent Jerry Hastings. Property control number is 41-31-43-17-01-115-0010. The location of the property is at 2374A Road. At the conclusion of the May 16, 2013 hearing, an order of violation was entered. It was a finding of violation of the Unified Land Development Code of the Town of Waxahachie Groves, sections 20-015, an illegal chipping and mulching operation.
Would you say that again, please, from the beginning?
Yes, sir. From the property.
The last sentence.
Okay, yes, sir. It is in violation of the Town of Waxahachie Groves Unified Land Development Code.
The date.
The date the order was entered? The date the order was entered is March 12th, 2013.
And you just said May either 16th or 26th.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were supposed to obtain compliance before April 20th, 2013. Let me finish and then I'll answer any questions you have, because I think I know where you're going. Mr. Magistrate, the order was that they were to come into compliance as of April 20th, 2013, or a fine in the amount, or a fine in an amount not to exceed $250 a day could be imposed. I'm going to present to you exhibit number 1 for the record, which is the order of violation.
Okay, thank you. You have a copy of this? You have the order.
Do you need a copy of it?
Yeah, if you have one.
On April 16th of 2013, the town of Waxahachie Groves, I provide this in exhibit number 2. We provided the property owners with a notice of hearing for fine certification. That notice was served both with posting of property as well as with a mailing and the mail affidavits. There's also an affidavit attached for the posting of property and the mailing that is also in the exhibit 2 as well. So they were properly notified pursuant to Florida state statutes. Means we'll take this too. Mr. Magistrate, I don't have an exhibit for this, but just for the record, after the April 16th, 2013 notice of hearing for fine certification was sent, we were in contact with Mr. and Mrs. Hastings. There was a meeting held between the town of Waxahachie Groves. Mark Cutney was in attendance. I was in attendance. Sue was in attendance, as well as Mr. Jerry Hastings. We discussed numerous ways at the time for them to come into compliance. And let me just backtrack. We would have had that meeting earlier, but there was, and I'll talk about that in a little when I get back to exhibit number 3. There was a death in the family, so there was some
For the Hastings?
for the Hastings, yes, sir. So there was some delay in getting and meeting with them. So the compliance date was set for April 20th. Anyway, they did not meet the compliance date. They were still awaiting for a meeting with the town of Waxahachie Groves to discuss compliance. That date was April 25th, on which the meeting occurred. During that meeting, we discussed numerous options with Mr. Hastings for coming into compliance, including the process of a special exception for a chipping and mulching operation, the option of whether or not they wanted to proceed forward, change the use on the property to a tree farm and nursery. We also discussed some items related to text amendments that might be a possibility where chipping mulching operation versus soil amendment process could be discussed, and the possibility of the ULDC committee to make changes to the text. However, nonetheless, that has nothing to do with the case in question, and the case in question is the chipping and mulching operation. It has been found to be an illegal operation, so it was made very clear to Mr. Hastings that that illegal operation needed to cease immediately, and especially as of April 25th. Proceeding forward, and I think Mr. Hastings probably is going to respond to some of this in his testimony, but proceeding forward, we did do Mr. Russ Elgin, Code Enforcement Officer for the town, on May 13th, 2013, conducted a site reinspection to determine if compliance had been obtained. I'm attaching numerous photographs from that reinspection, and as you can see, Mr. Magistrate, from those photographs, it appears, I mean, there's even one with a bulldozer in there, where it appears that a chipping and mulching operation is still in existence on this property. As a result, it's our opinion that the property is not presently in compliance, even as of May 15th or May 13th of 2013. So with that being said, we would request that you consider rendering a decision in the fine certification process and finding that they are in non-compliance. And with that, I will hold any additional testimony for rebuttal.
Did you want to submit those photos?
I-
Oh, they're here. Okay, I'm sorry. Not paying attention. I will admit into evidence exhibits 1, 2, 3, as submitted by the town. Mr. and Mrs. Hastings, do you have any questions of that witness?
Yeah, it was my understanding at that meeting that you weren't going to ask that the fines not be imposed until after the issues in that meeting were resolved. Mainly the fact that I said we were not chipping and mulching, we were making soil, we were composting. That's a use that's defined by Palm Beach County, by the state, but not by Loxahatchee Groves. It involves putting vegetation through a grinder, but it involves more than that. And the end use is soil, not soil amendment. Mr. Cutney said, well, you might have a point there, you can, I'll consider that if you'll write me a letter. There's usually a $250 charge, but in light of what's happened, I will render a decision, or I will get a definition, I will get this cleared up if you will get me a letter. I promised to get him a letter. I got the letter there the next day. I haven't heard anything back. It was our understanding that a fine would not take place until that was considered and we were given an answer.
That was testimony, which is fine. Is that your understanding of the meeting and the discussions?
From the meeting, like I say, we had, I think our understanding was as if he was doing a composting operation, if a determination could be made that that composting operation was separate and distinct from chipping and mulching operation, and if the chipping and mulching operation had ceased immediately, that absolutely the fine, there would not be a fine rendered. We would consider them to be in compliance.
The letter that I sent Mr. Cutney pointed out that there's two ways, and I took it from a definition on the internet. I don't.
Do you have your letter, sir? Or a copy of it for me?
I believe I do.
And let me ask a question before you continue. Did you understand that there would be a response to, or did you understand Mr. Hastings was going to send a letter?
Yes, I did.
Do you understand there would be a response to that letter prior to the town moving forward with either fine certification or any action?
Yes, I know.
Did you just say no? I'm sorry.
Mr. Magistrate, I don't have copies of any of the letters either.
You didn't bring a copy of this, because it doesn't that would be,
Maybe we can make a copy, yeah.
And that explains the compost and how it's
There's
done.
two methods.
Hold on, I'm going to let you tell me that.
There's no release or decision made. It's release for a separate distinct emulsion operation.
Correct. No.
No.
If you like,
Yeah, why don't we get copies of these, and just for the record, I have a letter from Mr. Hastings to Mr. Cutney dated April 26th, this year, and also a howtocompost.org article of some sort. Let's make those respondents exhibits 1 and 2.
Your Honor, may I ask if they have any additional questions for me, or if they have any additional testimony?
Well, we can. I guess first, do you have any more questions for the witness? And you have a chance to testify, and cutting that off by any means.
You don't remember anything at the meeting being said that, in fact, I'm not even sure why we had that meeting, if it wasn't to try to resolve the issue, that there might be another option for us to pursue other than sticking with what was there, what was going on. Do you remember me admitting that at that meeting that I didn't think we had mentioned trying to use the Florida Right to Farm Act by putting a tree farm on the property and using the results of the composting operation to spread on the tree farm. Do you remember me saying that I don't think would be fair to the town, that I don't think that's really what we're doing? But yet in your statement there, you're saying that is one of the options that we were looking at.
Yes, sir, I do recall you saying that. I think what comes into question here is whether or not Mr. Chiaffi is still operating a chipping and mulching operation on the site. I think let me finish my response. I believe what the town was going to do was to make every attempt to find a compliant land use for you to continue operation at the site. I think we made it very, very clear to you, however, as of that day, that Mr. Chiaffi needed to cease the chipping and mulching operation. That if in fact, I mean, yes, that's been the issue at hand all along. And if we could come up with some reasonable, compliant land use for you, and Mr. Chiaffi stopped the operation, the chipping and mulching operation on your site, which primarily that means it appears that he's still bringing debris on site, it's still going off site, and a chipping and mulching operation is still continuing to occur. That is, at this point in time, pursuant to the Unified Land Development Code, and a legal operation.
It is not, and we have said from day one, a commercial chipping and mulching operation. We refused to fill out the application for that. You put NA across my entire application over a year ago. There is no chipping and mulching operation to stop because there never has been one. We have been trying to explain that to you, and you continue to call it a chipping and mulching operation.
If you look at the letter,
you just don't want to listen to anything but what you want to focus on.
What we have presently is an order of violation where, imagine we've already been through the hearing, testimony has been presented, and...
Then why did you meet with Jerry?
Because we want to be able to work something out with you.
Okay.
Mr. Chiaffi needs to stop the chipping and mulching
Oh,
operation.
okay, this
No, wait,
guy,
let her finish, and I'll let you speak.
Mr. Chiaffi, and we made it very, very clear, needs to cease the chipping and mulching operation on your site.
Do you know what a chipping and mulching operation is? I've asked you this 100 times. Do you know what Atlas Peat and Soil is? Do you know where they are on 441 in Boynton Beach on 60 acres for a chipping and mulching operation? Do you know where Amerigro is at Atlantic and 441? Those are chipping and mulching operations. They have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to become chipping and mulching operations. And yet you've got a guy at F Road on 3 acres that you say was grandfathered in for a chipping and mulching operation where we weren't allowed to continue our soil process, even though we had been there for 6 years. So you just continually refuse to call it anything but a chipping and mulching operation, or give us the chance. Yeah, we've got the chance to show you that, but you still call it that. That's not what it is. It's no different than what Mr. Rocket's son does on his property when he brings his vegetation in. You're not doing anything different than what he's doing on the Vila property when he brings in his vegetation.
Well, what we had indicated to Mr. Hastings during that meeting is if that's how you feel, then yes, I mean, certainly the Unified Land Development Code, the code committee can certainly take up, you know, how they have the code written in terms of chipping and mulching operation versus what you consider to be soil amendment, and to make some sort of determination as to whether or not there's some sort of difference or similarity. But presently, the way that you're operating, pursuant to the Land Development Code, it's considered to be a chipping and mulching operation, and I believe that's already been decided.
By you,
No, ma'am.
by the town,
I made the presentation.
by the town.
You have an order of violation where you are considered to be in violation of the Land Development Code. And this is a fine certification hearing.
Well, let's see if we can get on track here.
can I speak?
Well, I'm going to speak, but let me ask a question or two, and then I'll let you tell me whatever you want to tell me. My memory of the hearing we had was that there now is a tree farm on about 5 acres.
It's less than that, sir.
I'm sorry?
It's less than that.
Okay, there's a tree farm on a portion of the property. And let me ask the town, that use is acceptable, wouldn't that be correct?
Yes, sir, if they move forward, that would be correct.
Okay. I mean, if there were just a tree farm, there's not a problem.
Right.
Okay. The issue is with the remainder of the property, or what's going on with the remainder of the property, and whether that's chipping and or mulching under the town code.
Would somebody please tell me, is it chipping and mulching unless those machines run? Or is it storing vegetation, which it goes on all over lots of places?
I can't, you know, the thing is that a complaint was...
Chipping and mulching has not happened.
Mr. Chiaffi, I mean, let me ask you this. This appears in these photographs that somebody has come down to your site and dumped a load of debris.
Our renter, Mr. Ciaffi, his
That's an
vegetation.
illegal operation, you can't do that. And it's still occurring. And I made it clear that we would not, I made it very, very clear to you, and so did Mr. McCutney, that we would not, if you were trying to bring your site into compliance, we would not move forward with a fine assessment, that we would give you an opportunity to put it on hold for you to bring the site into compliance. But as of 2 days ago,
But you're wrong.
it's still...
Wait, let's get permission to speak. When I can get permission to speak, please give it to me.
Sir, calm down. I'm going to give you all the chance you want to speak, but when someone else is speaking, it doesn't do any good to be waving your arms and getting all excited.
Great, please, when I can speak, please say, sir, you can speak.
Let
Let's
me ask
answer
you.
any additional questions.
Yeah, they're really presenting their case. You're going to have the whole chance to present your case. But what I want to know and need to know is what has changed at the site, if anything, since the hearing, what equipment's at the site? See, because the question is, are you chipping and mulching, or are you doing something else, okay? And I know there's a difference of opinion in that, but there's a definition in the code of chipping and mulching. Unfortunately, the code doesn't have a definition of soil amendment
Making soil.
or making soil, okay? So it's not there. Okay, but the order found that there was chipping and mulching operation going on. Now, has anything changed?
Can I get our copy back?
Copy
In case Jerry wants to refer to it.
to the order?
To Mark's letter and
Is
the
there
compost operation, he just gave us, I'd like to have our original back,
Okay,
just so Jerry can,
you can have those.
okay, thank you.
May I speak now?
Yes, and you need not have that attitude.
There's nothing here that shows anything about chipping and mulching. Chipping and mulching has not happened since that meeting.
Okay, let me just ask you, and I'll let you continue. You need to educate me if I'm going to roll in this. What kind of equipment would be used to chip and mulch? Some big grinder type thing?
That's correct.
Okay, is there a grinder on the site?
There is.
Okay. Has the grinder been used since, what's our date here, April 20th?
To my understanding, no. I'm not out there 24/7. To my understanding, it has not.
Okay.
None of this shows anything about chipping and mulching, other than this pile that was dumped outside the fence by whoever illegally. You can see that this is the only entrance that's drivable to the property. They have to put that there to keep people from coming in and stealing equipment at night, because it's happened 3 or 4 times when they don't have something there.
They have to put what where?
They have to put this huge front-end loader across the roadway. Otherwise, people come in there and burn cars at night, or steal trailers or steal equipment that's on the property.
And illegally.
This is dumped outside, down 50 yards or so from this, dumped outside the fence illegally by some other maintenance person in Loxahatchee.
You can see the fence right here, and you can see it's dumped outside the
Mr.
fence.
Siafi would not dump this out here. He would move this machine and take it into where he can process it. This is extra work for him, to dump it outside. Then he's got to go pick it up again and move it inside. We mentioned that in previous meetings, that people dump there because they see the operation that's going on there.
Okay, I see that. Let me ask you about page 2 of the photos.
Yes,
And I'm looking at the one on the bottom left. Now, where is that on the site?
it's near the back of the property.
And I'm not sure exactly what that's showing, but it looks like some piles of tree limbs and such. That I don't know if they're being moved or piled or what's happening with them. Is that, or am I not looking at it right?
You have cleaner copies, the originals. Fit it off.
Okay, yeah, those are better.
Just for clarification, this is the driveway property looking straight back. And that's some of the equipment, page, or this is a zoomed in picture, and this is for the green grinder, chipper, whatever you want to call it, sifter, machinery is back in here, but property's overgrown with all the weeds and stuff where the trees are. So it's hard to see too much further.
Okay, well, let me ask you, when you were at the site, did you see the chipper or grinder in operation?
I did not, that does it.
Did you see any product from a chipper or grinder?
There are piles located in and around the machine at a distance, and the stuff looked fresh.
It did look fresh.
At a distance, I didn't go up and right on top of it, no.
let me ask the town, if material is brought in but not chipped, does that violate the code?
That's still
Still
a processing plant.
It's still processing, they can't bring it in and store it on site.
That's one of the two questions in the very brief letter to Mr. Cutney that he wanted right away, so he could answer that, so we could know what to do for this meeting, which I have not heard back. April 26th, May 15th. He wanted the letter right away. I got it to him within 24 hours. It's 20 days later.
Yes, sir, and yes, these are
That's
all.
one of the very, oh, well, I'm speaking this time.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I contend we're not chipping and mulching, we are composting. And there's two ways to compost based on this definition. There's a passive composting, where you pile it up and let nature take its course. There's an active composting, where you turn it with front-end loaders, you chip it into smaller particles, you turn it with loaders, and also let nature take its course. The one can take 6 months to a year, the other one can take weeks. My question to Mr. Cutney was, is storing vegetation plant trimmings on the A Road property for an indefinite period of time, practicing passive composting, a legal use, and/or if the vegetation trimmings were turned with a front-end loader in an active composting manner, thus making soil, is that a conforming use? You say you wanted to get us in compliance. We're arguing here that maybe we found a way to be in compliance, but we couldn't get an answer on it.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Hastings, I'm going to almost quote unquote what you said. You said that even in composting, you chip it to smaller particles. Is that part of your chipping and mulching?
Would you like me to read it again?
No,
There's two ways. Passive process, let me read it from here. Composting is a dynamic process which will occur quickly or slowly depending on the process used and the skill with which it is executed. A neglected pile of inorganic waste will indefinitely decompose but slowly. This has been referred to as passive composting because little maintenance is performed. Wait.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Turning for aeration is done about once a month using a front-end loader or other type of heavy equipment made specifically for that purpose. There's some skill involved there by using heavier equipment. There's also more skill involved if you help nature by breaking it into smaller particles. You can get out there with a machete and break it into smaller particles. That's not very skillful. You can take a chipper or a grinder and make it into much smaller particles and speed up the process. That's the skill involved there. But it's still composting. It's not chipping and mulching, it's composting.
In my response, in section 80-055 of the Land Development Code, which responds to and talks about legal chipping and mulching operations, you are allowed to store compost. There are certain parameters by which you store that compost, which at this time you don't even comply with those.
Where are those parameters? We tried to find that.
The bottom line of the long process and processed material should be intended to 15 feet, or limited to 15 feet. Storage areas including compost shall be set back at least 100 feet from any property line and screened from view. Now, to continue with what I'm saying to you is that, yes, this is part of trying to get you into compliance. This has nothing to do, but I understand from your perspective, everything to do with this hearing. What you still apparently have on the site, which I asked you to cease immediately, and you said you were going to talk to Mike Chiaffi, was to cease a chipping and mulching operation. You have a chipper on site, you have a grinder on site.
They're not
It
running.
appears that you've indicated, it appears that he's operating something there. He has equipment that is moving material around on your site, and it's material that's being brought in to your site from other locations. That is illegal. You cannot do that in the form that you are presently operating within. He needs to cease the operation.
Are you aware that he has ceased the operation?
It doesn't look like it. I mean, as of 2 days ago, I see equipment on the site. I see
The equipment is
mounds
there, our
of
meeting was
mulched
today.
material.
The
You say you
equipment,
still have a chipper and a grinder on site,
We
and
do.
there's obvious
And
mulched material on the side.
that's been there for months. This was asking, if we just pile it up there and passive mulch, is that a legal
Well,
use?
then what was Mr. Chiaffi doing on the site? When
I-
Mr.
why move the
Mr.
machinery off before this meeting?
When you were on the site, did you observe an operation with the heavy equipment that's used for the chipping and mulching operation?
Was it run?
Was it being run?
It was not functioning at that time.
It was not functioning at the time.
It was a loader running, but not,
Pardon me?
it was front end loader running, or nothing running?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing running.
Nothing's been running.
I mean, it was, the front end loaders blocking the driveway to the property.
We've been holding our breath for this meeting. We've been holding our breath for the answer to this letter.
The town manager currently has it under review. So-
He should have answered the letter. He
Well-
wanted the letter.
I understand he has.
Don't make excuses
I
for him,
understand he
Russ.
has-
Don't make excuses
I understand he
for him.
has it under review, but
Is
we're,
Mr. Chiaffi still under, or do you still have an active lease with Mr. Chiaffi?
yes.
Do you know, so what you're telling me, and what I believe you to be telling me, is that there has, since the hearing, there has been no operation, no running of any type of equipment on this site. Mr. Chiaffi has not moved material in or off the site. The chipping and grinding operation has ceased. And more or less, it is just sitting there in the state that and there's nothing going on the site.
It's my understanding, I'm not out there 24/7, but when I left the meeting that day, because of what we had said, that you were going to hold everything up if we ceased until the time of this meeting. I called him, told him what had happened at the meeting, told him that I needed him to hold up until this meeting to see if we could get any kind of approval. That we had asked for 2 options, which are here in the letter, to be considered. That you had said you would consider them, you would get back to us in a timely fashion, but meanwhile, cease what he was doing until we had an answer. It's my understanding he understood that. He told me he understood it. He told me he would do it. I'm not out there taking pictures. I can only ask a renter to do something. I can't force them to do it. I can tell them that there's legal consequences if it goes against us.
We also asked him to cease because I believe that Ms. Tu made it very clear that she would suggest to the magistrate at the meeting to not go back and start fining us.
Ms. Hastings.
And that's why we asked Chiaffi to cease and desist. We don't have money to pay you. We don't have money to pay a
It
fine.
might be in your best interest, but let me to say something to the magistrate real quick, okay? Mr. Magistrate, after conferring with Mr. Elgin, I mean, we do have the photos where it appears that certainly there is still results of a chipping and mulching operation on site, but Mr. Magistrate, we would have to indicate that we have not seen active activity on site. I mean, that is something that we cannot, without a shadow of a doubt, say that there is still chipping and mulching operation continuing to occur. We haven't seen the activity in action.
Okay. But, and I guess there's going to be more meetings, and let me maybe help understand it, one, and two, maybe get a little direction here. If, and I take it you own some other properties, is the material coming from other properties you own to the site?
We have two nurseries that, if and when we have files of cuttings, we do bring it from there on site.
For the most part.
Clean up of ours, most of it comes from Mr. Siafi's trucks and his landscape.
So he has his own business where he may be bringing stuff in.
Correct.
See, because part of the issue as I read it, as I read the code, is if it's coming from off-site, is that creating issues? Because the definition, and I'll tell you what I looked at here, an exception to the commercial chipping and mulching section is, in other words, this is not commercial chipping and mulching if you fit this. It says, these regulations shall not apply to the occasional chipping and mulching of wood materials generated on-site and associated with property maintenance or any bona fide agricultural use conforming to generally accepted agricultural and best management practices. Okay, so if it's coming from off-site, you know, I think you get into a little different realm, okay? I guess the question remains in my mind is if these materials are coming from off-site, but you're not chipping and mulching them, you're turning them, let's say, we'll say you're turning them as compost, does that violate the code? And I don't think that's an issue for me to decide today, but I think that's a question maybe for the town to decide. Does that violate something, or is it fine? I mean, maybe
You have to bring it in from somewhere in order to have the components to do the composting.
Mr. Magistrate, yeah, to respond to your question is, if they are bringing, which in Mr. Chiaffi's case and as admitted to by Ms. Hastings, if he is bringing stuff in from off-site on his trucks, it is considered to be a commercial chipping and mulching operation.
Let me just stop you there. Even if he's not chipping or grinding it? Because that's what I'm hearing. And let me just suggest this. If they removed the chipper and the grinder, and I'm not saying they have to because I guess it can sit there and rust, but if they let it sit there and rust and or they just say, okay, we're going to get this equipment out of here, I think then they're falling into more of a composting, but I don't know if that violates code or not.
And if we keep the piles under 15 feet, and with the front end loaded and turned.
And it may violate another section of the code, I don't know, but I'm just sort of trying to think through where this is headed, and maybe I'm going beyond what I need to go beyond.
It just takes a lot longer without the equipment.
In the agricultural residential district, and we, again, this is one of the reasons why I can understand in terms of bringing the site into compliance, this letter is very important to them. And that Mr. Cutney does need to respond to this letter in order for them to make some decision in terms of whether or not they want to be considered, quote unquote, just a composting operation. So I mean, for me to sit here, I could tell you that looking at the permitted uses just right off the bat for agricultural residential, doesn't look like composting is a by right use. But again, you know, I'm just...
We're the nursery business.
What does it fall under then? Is it industrial?
Well, let me back up one step.
He did.
One way for them to chip and mulch is to, or is this a solution for them to get a special exception?
That's correct.
And we're separating the definition between just the occasional use and the commercial use. There's an exception.
and I'm trying to keep real clear lines.
Did you just
between-
get that information from
That's
Mr. Ryan, by the
I
way?
don't know,
No,
Mrs.
we've already
Hastings,
covered that.
I have not spoken to Mr. Ryan.
Well, he just
But
came
this-
over there in the middle of a meeting to give Russ
So
information
Magistrate,
to
I'm
the
trying to
highlighted
keep
paper.
very clear, distinct lines between the violation, which in this case, the violation and the order is for the commercial chipping and mulching operation. They are an illegal use, they do not have a special exception to be able to operate as a commercial chipping and mulching operation. They have indicated to the town that the cost for incurring the special exception is not an option, so to speak. So therefore, it's been indicated to us they're not going to pursue the special exception for the commercial chipping and mulching operation. So therefore, what was promulgated is what can we do to help them and assist them and to find out what they can do in lieu of a commercial chipping and mulching operation. So what we did and what I'm looking at is trying to make a determination is if Mr. Chiaffi is still operating and bringing material on site and utilizing the site as a commercial chipping and mulching operation. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, there is a grinder and there is a chipper on site. They have admitted to the fact that they still have a lease with them. So it appears that there is some thought that the commercial chipping and mulching operation is going to continue to exist. But if it's going to continue to exist legally, they need to get the special exception.
Maybe you shouldn't assume things that you don't really know.
Well, let me ask a question. Under the permitted use section of the town code, there is chipping and mulching, and then there's commercial chipping and mulching.
Yes.
Right. Now, what is this section?
Chipping and mulching can be used as, like if they were to go in, and we discussed this with them during our meeting, if they were to go in and they were to continue to operate as a nursery, a landscape nursery, they can have some accessory chipping and mulching for debris that is generated from the commercial nursery operation. They can do some chipping, limited chipping and mulching.
On-site stuff.
On-site stuff, yes, sir.
So in your opinion, at least, bringing it from off-site makes it commercial. Does it matter where it's used? Does the product have to be used on-site, or what? And I don't know if you folks know, is if we were going to call it soils or the mulch, is it being used by Mr. Chiaffi as part of his landscape business?
I believe that it cannot be resold, but it can be taken off-site and reused. In other words,
Because he does that stuff for a living.
and we have 2 plant nurseries and we get our loads of soil from him
Okay, so you.
to pot our plants,
Okay.
which works as a good trade-off for us. But this minor chipping and mulching, that's just to cover town councils, families. They're not doing anything different than Ciaffi's doing, it just happens that they own the property. They're bringing it in off-site. They're doing the exact same thing that Mr. Ciaffi's doing. But now you've got to create something to cover them. Composting is a Florida Right to Farm Act law. Whether it's slow or it's fast, it is allowed with the Florida Right to Farm Act with the tree farm on site. It does not have to be done with on-site products. No matter what your law states, the Florida Right to Farm Act trumps the town of Loxahatchee. It even trumps Palm Beach County. All we are doing is composting. We are making soil. I happen to know for a fact somebody came into the town's office recently and asked if they could mix soil on a piece of property. And because of who that person was and his connections, he was told, no problem. Making soil, composting, of course that's allowed.
I guess we're into a matter of definitions, and I
It
don't.
is all definition.
And that's exactly the purpose of the letter that was given within 24 hours, expected a quick turnaround
We
answer.
expected a response so we could look at it before we got here.
Here we are.
I mean, Ciaffi, well, you know, he hasn't been running the equipment, he hasn't been doing what he was doing, because we said, wait till May 15th. We'll see what happens May 15th. And we never got our answers.
Okay. I don't know what else to listen to. Anything else from the town?
Yes,
this time.
Okay, I think what I'm gonna do, and I don't want this to go on forever, but I'm not sure we've really reached a conclusion. I think there does need to be a response to the letter. Well, I mean, if the town, by your comments of not seeing chipping or grinding going on in the interim, does that mean compliance, or does that mean we're sort of on the road to maybe there's compliance?
It concerns me, and I don't want to come and say outright, I think there needs to be some more evidence of compliance. It concerns me that when we did the re-inspection, there's still piles of mulch, compost, whatever they may want to call it, on the site. It appears that there is still dumping.
Why don't you go sit there, put a camera up and watch it 24/7, and then next time we come back, you say if any of those machines have run.
Let me ask you.
Or
Why
are we
don't
just-
you-
are we just
well, let me
composting?
ask you this, would it be a problem for you, you know, and I'm sure that even as of today, if you were to say, look, we're not doing chipping and mulching out there, would it be a problem to have Mr. Chiaffi remove the grinder and the chipper?
Would it be easy for you to just remove a grinder and chipper? Just like, was it easy for us to move everything off of 162nd Street when you told us we could go
Are
to
you
A Road
going
and
to
B
do
let me
this
ask-
there?
let me ask
If
you a
you're
question.
going to do, it's my turn. If you're going to be doing even composting, are you gonna have a chipper and a grinder on the side?
Well, that depends. You said that on a small basis, there's a chipping and mulching operation, and
It's
then
my
there's a commercial
understanding that
chipping and
you
mulching.
told me that you were not going to be putting.
I said we will not turn the equipment on until this is solved.
I don't think we're getting into
The-
anything.
I don't think
The
we're-
letter asked the question, is passive composting, piling it up, is that legal? Is that a conforming land use? It's a simple yes or no.
If you're gonna compost, where are you gonna get your compost material from?
If I'm gonna have a chicken farm, where am I gonna get my eggs from? Doesn't matter. It's an agricultural use. Doesn't matter where the eggs come from. Doesn't matter whether I grew the eggs on the property or I bought the eggs from somewhere else.
I
Doesn't
think that if
matter.
you had a nursery and you were composting as part of the accessory to the nursery, you'd be fine.
We have a tree farm on site.
Let's see if we can get.
You can't
Let's see if
win.
we can stop arguing. If we will clear that property, level that property by a month from today, can we forget, get every piece of equipment off the property, level the property, then let the weeds and the Australian pines grow back. But get everything that's concerning the town of Loxahatchee, get it out of
Don't
there.
say everything, because they'll make you remove every concrete block like they got.
By 1 month from today, can we forget everything? Can we forget compliance meetings, code violations, fines?
Can
Would
you
that
leave us
work?
alone?
Would that work?
I wouldn't guarantee 30 days, it might take maybe 60 days.
30, if we can get it out of there in 30 days, would that satisfy everybody?
Including Mr. Ryan, since he seems to be here making this whole thing happen.
And I'd like to speak, can I ask a couple questions about, I notice everybody, I've been to 3 meetings here now, and everybody that had any testimony or any part of the meeting sat at these tables, except for Mr. Ryan. Is Mr. Ryan compensated by the town of Loxahatchee Groves? You snicker at that, but I noticed when I brought the letter in, you were in the back room yucking it up with a young lady who, I'll paraphrase what she said. Those people think they can do whatever the hell they want when they want to, and you and she were yucking it up in the back room. So that makes me wonder, are you just a do-gooder that gets to go in the back room? Are you compensated? What is the alliance, and why do you sit over there when everybody else sits at these
I'm more
tables?
than willing to testify under oath,
Yeah. He's gonna testify under oath.
and I'd be willing to do that right now and make some comments that relate to the discussions today.
Well, you know what? I mean, people have said to me, why in the world are you going through this? Don't they know about the Florida Right to Farm Act? And I say, well, you know what? Maybe John Ryan needs to learn it. John Ryan's the reason you're going through this? Do you know how many people in FNGLA I talk to on a weekly basis?
I don't
Do you know how
know.
many are shocked that you have done this to us?
Hey, that's,
I hope it makes you happy.
Let's
I'm tired of this bullshit.
Stop.
Because it
We're
is.
getting off track. Let me go back to Mr. Hastings' proposal. And let me back up from it by one comment. You asked two questions in your letter, which I think deserve answers. If I had to write a third question in here, I would say, you know, if the vegetation trimmings are chipped and grind on an occasional basis as part of a composting process, is that acceptable? And I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying I think that's another question, because what you're telling me is one of a few things that's happening. One, the clippings and all are just coming in and you can let them sit there, okay, number one. Number two, you bring them in and you get a loader and you push them around a little bit so they turn and would decompose better. Three would be you can accelerate that process by doing some chipping and grinding. Now, does number three violate the chipping and grinding? I mean, maybe so, but you know, I think that's sort of the three levels of what your question could be.
I think that's a very good point, thank you.
Okay. Now, I don't necessarily want you out of frustration to just remove everything. Okay, but if you want to remove everything, obviously it clears up.
We can't afford the fines, we can't afford the fees for, to try to, the application fees, the special exception fees, we can't afford any of that. We've worked hard. We've owned 17 properties in Loxahatchee Groves. Every one of them is in better shape than it was when we bought it and resold it. We were in Loxahatchee when Okeechobee Road was a dirt road, but I've got a bad taste for it now.
Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's see if we can move it along. I think what I'm going to do is reschedule this, and like I said, I don't have any great desire to keep us beating each other up here. Let's reschedule it for the June meeting. In the meantime, you know, perhaps you can get a response to your letter. In the meantime, if your true desire is to remove the chipper and grinding equipment off the property, if you do that, I would not be inclined to levy any fine. Okay, I'm not going to find that you're in violation at the moment, as far as saying, hey, I'm going to go back to April and fine you. I'm not going to do that. So I think we need to get this to a point where you can make a rational decision on what to do, and you know the town can have its position, which I don't generally know what it is, but I think you deserve an answer to your letter to those points, and it doesn't mean I need to agree or will agree with the town's response. You know, they may say, no, this is a problem, this problem, this problem, and maybe I don't agree with that, or maybe I do. I'm not saying I do one way or the other. You know, I think that'll move it along. That'll give everybody a little more chance to continue to try to work it out. Maybe it can't be worked out. You know, I don't know about that. But it doesn't, well, let me just leave it at that. So why don't we, I'll enter an order saying that as of today's date, I'm not finding, not going to impose any fines. And I'll tell you that until we can get it worked out, and I'll put this in the order, that the next hearing date, which is what, June 19th?
Yes, sir.
You know, until then, I'm not going to retroactive on you and impose a fine for this window. But on the other hand, I don't expect Mr. Chiaffi to be out there running the grinder and chipper.
It won't be.
You know, so I think that's what we'd ask for the good faith on your side, was we could try to work this out.
Can we add your third question that you had, that was a very good one to this letter, since Mark hasn't answered the letter yet?
Sure. You know, and, because that's sort of the three levels, and then the fourth level would be, can we just run our chipper and grinder anytime we want to, which I think's a no.
We already know it's a-
Yeah, you know that's a no, but there are the issues of bringing it from outside and what you do with it and all that stuff enters into it. But I mean, those are decisions really for the town. At least they would have first shot at them, you know, rather than my trying to sort of make some policy decision for the town.
I'd like to put on record that it is the decision of the town, however, they should be considering the Florida Range Farm Act when they're considering their response as a compost operation.
That's right now not a code enforcement issue. So what I would do and suggest that you do is in your conversations with the town manager for those options, make sure that, you know, he responds to that.
But you said it's not a code enforcement issue. So if the machines are not running and we decide to have just a compost operation with a loader possibly turning the piles, keeping the piles under 15 feet, at this time that is not a code enforcement violation, correct?
I'm not gonna make that call at this point,
You
that's
just
not
said it.
mine, that's,
tried to
no,
understand
ma'am,
what
I'm
you
not the
said.
town planner, that is,
I'm trying to
that's,
understand what you just said.
you
just
need
said-
to go and again, just have Mr., resubmit your letter with the third question. You might even make a mention in there, right, how does it correspond to the Right to Farm Act, and have the town respond back to you.
Yeah, in the meantime, really what you're asking, I think, with your question just now is, how is the town going to respond? And I
Well,
think
no, because the student said that what we're doing now is not a code violation, the machines are not running. The piles are there, but the machines are not running.
I'm not, maybe she said that, I'm not sure that's what she's saying. I think she's saying she's not sure because your question, your letter raises good questions.
Okay, so we need to get the letter back. We'll have that back tonight, by email from again.
Okay, I don't know that we accomplished, did we accomplish anything? Do we have any reaction to that? Anyway, it's 11 o'clock. I will enter the order. We'll get together again if need be. That'd be great if you guys could work it out in the meantime and we don't need the hearing.
What time is the meeting on June 19th?
It'll be at 10 o'clock.
What day of the week is that?
I believe we'll have 2 fine certifications that day, but yours will be the first one because you're a continuance.
So Wednesday.
Do you ever do afternoon meetings?
No, ma'am.
And they never land on a Friday?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Third Wednesday of every month.
Okay, that is, I think, all we can do, and we will adjourn. It's 11 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Serious issues?
No, that's, they're recorded for us.
No.
Make sure